Alright, we're gonna get started, and we're on to the... What? No, 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 no. These are not the notes I wanted. You know what? I think I oversaved my notes. Meaning, like, I had the one. That's okay. I will post the appropriate notes. We're gonna go here, finish up what you talked about on Tuesday, and then go into the heart. Yeah, so the notes that are posted right now for the heart and blood aren't right. But I'll post the right ones. I mean, they're mostly the same. Sorry, just one moment. Okay. Okay. So we're actually here. Hi, everybody. Oh, glad people are alive and well. This is excellent. I mean, I'm glad you all are alive and well, too. You have a quiz today. I will have your exams and lab exams all graded by tonight. Ha people did a really pretty good job. Yeah. Anybody, so you have a quiz today. It's short. It's about blood. You can take it online. It's open through 11:55. If you want to take it in person, you can, and there's no time limit on that one. All right, you can just sit there and think as much as you want. There aren't any written answers, like they're all just circle answers, so I don't think it'll take that long, but whichever one makes sense for you. Okay, so back to blood, right? Where we left off on Tuesday, an exciting journey of discovery, was blood clots, and that's fantastic, right? Because you get cut, the vessel's broken, it needs to close itself up. And like, you see that on your skin if you have ever been grating carrots too enthusiastically, right? And you cut yourself. But this also can happen internally, right? There can be, well, not the greater thing. Okay, yeah, like, but there can be breaks, like bruises, right? You need those vessels to close up. The problem arises, though, if blood clots in a blood vessel that hasn't been broken. It's called a thrombus. And that is a big problem if it's someplace like in the heart, right? So you can imagine if, I don't know if this helps for your imagination, you can imagine, I don't know, have you ever seen plumber's putty? It's just like thick, goopy putty stuff, right? You can use it to keep pipes from leaking, right? But what you really don't want to do is you want to get a ball of this stuff and dump it down your drain, right? Because it'll clog up the pipes. Thrombus is this clot in an unbroken vessel. If it breaks free from where it's clogged up and like starts floating around the bloodstream, that's an embolus. And it can like float around and then later like clog a blood vessel in the brain. This is a problem. Okay? So you could have a problem with your blood's clotting when it shouldn't, right? Because it clumps up. What's the opposite problem? One problem is your blood is too goopy and just clots. Why not just like throw, I don't know, anti-clotting agents? Like mosquitoes are full of this stuff. Mosquitoes, when they bite you, they dump a series of chemicals into you that keeps blood from clotting so it doesn't clot their little sucker bits, right? Any problems if your blood doesn't clot? Yeah, no? There are some problems that happen with it. They're called bleeding disorders, because people bleed too much, right? So, the two main ones, there are lots of different versions of these, but the two main ones are thrombocytopenia, and that's just you don't have enough platelets. So your platelets don't form this platelet plug very well because you don't have very many of them. So, this picture, let me make it big. You might have actually seen this before. People have problems with this. They'll have a bunch of blotches under the skin, like purplish blotches. It can sometimes happen in some diseases. What happens where if you've got like small tears in blood vessels, right? Normally you need some platelets to clot. If you don't have enough, it's just basically like you bleed more into your body than you ought to. Hemophilia, you might have heard of before. That's a hereditary disorder, and the clotting factors are missing in that one. The platelets are fine, but the clotting factors are toast. So far, so good? Okay, on to, this is going to be fast, the blood groups idea. So, you want to keep your blood inside of you, typically. If you lose 10% of your blood, you're probably still doing okay. Once you start hitting about 15, 20, 30% blood loss, you're kind of in trouble. After 30% blood loss, you're in serious trouble. So blood transfusions are the idea of, well, let's just put some back into you, right? Which is a great idea, works really well, has saved countless lives. And this is where the blood groups idea comes in. And it's just a beautiful example of genetics that people really like using this as examples in biology classes, right? So blood has a bunch of these proteins, they're actually glycoproteins, basically carbohydrates and proteins. And the human immune system recognizes foreign things. So it recognizes your blood as like, we're cool with it, that's mine, it belongs to me. But if you have blood that doesn't match that, your immune system gets all heroic and tries to save the day, right? So it tries to clump the stuff up, it tries to keep it from doing what it's supposed to be doing, right? Because it's being helpful. The problem is that if you get the wrong type of blood, you can be in trouble. I have this video to watch, and there's an ethical question we need to talk about afterwards. It's about giving blood, amongst other things. Online folks will be back in
of real science.
12 minutes, so go watch your thing.
Science is brought to you by CuriosityStream.
Can you hear it?
Sign up today at curiositystream.com/realscience and get free access to watchnebula.com. We all know we should donate blood, but probably don't as much as we should. Every year, almost 5 million Americans need blood transfusions and would likely die without them. Approximately 32,000 pints of blood are used each day in the United States for people who lose blood during operations or from traumatic injuries. Others need blood transfusions because of ongoing illness, like sickle cell anemia, where they will need transfusions throughout their lives. The network of blood donation and transfusion in any country is a hugely vital part of keeping sick or injured people alive and well. This wouldn't be so complicated if we all had the same type of blood, but we don't. And some of us have such rare blood types that any injury, any procedure, or any accident can be life-threatening. Imagine your blood was so rare and so unique that should you get hurt, almost no one else in the world's donated blood would be able to save you. so rare and so valuable that your identity needs to be concealed to keep a never-ending stream of requests for it at bay. So rare that scientists would do almost anything to get their hands on a pint of it to study. For the people who have the rarest blood type in the world, Rh-null, this is their reality. It's the world's most dangerous blood type to have, because only 43 people in the world are discovered to have it. Meaning if you get hurt, basically no one else's blood would be compatible with yours. Injuries that would be serious but treatable for everyone else would probably be fatal for you. Most of us have probably heard of the usual blood type system, or even know our own blood type. O positive, AB negative, A positive, O negative. This classification determines who we can donate blood to or receive it from. There are a total of 33 different classification systems recognized, but most people only need to worry about the two most common ones, the ABO and Rh systems. The ABO system classifies blood based on the presence of antigens, antigen A and antigen B. You can have one or the other, both, or neither. Antigens are glycoprotein markers embedded in the cell membrane and help your immune system to distinguish between your body's own cells and foreign cells, like viruses or bacteria. In an A blood type, the A antigen is found on the blood cell itself, and an A or anti-B antibody is found in the blood serum. In a B blood type, a B antigen is found on the blood cells, and a B or anti-A antibody is found in the serum. Blood type AB has both A and B antigens on the blood cells, and neither of the corresponding antibodies against them in the serum. And blood type O has neither antigen on the cells, but has antibodies A and B in the serum. When blood is donated, the red blood cells are separated from the plasma where the antibodies are located, through a process called blood fractionation. This ensures that only the red blood cells get donated, and not their corresponding antibodies, since that would cause an adverse reaction in the recipient. Your immune system will produce antibodies against any blood antigens you don't have in your own blood. Therefore, a person with type A blood that receives B blood would have an ABO incompatibility reaction. The anti-B antibody present in the patient's blood would agglutinate with the B antigens on the donated red blood cells, making the blood cells clump together and block small blood vessels. The immune system would then attack the new blood cells and destroy them. It's rare for this to happen, but if it does, it is serious and potentially fatal. Transfusion is considered safe as long as the serum of the recipient does not contain antibodies for the blood cell antigens of the donor. So this is why, if you have type AB blood, you're a universal recipient. You don't have either of the antibodies that would attack A or B donor blood. However, this also means you can only donate blood to other people who have AB blood. If you have type O blood, you're a universal donor. You can give your blood to A, B, AB, or O without triggering their immune system. But this is also why people with O blood can only receive type O blood. However, there are other antigens that need to be accounted for beyond the ones in the ABO system before donating or receiving blood safely. This is where the rhesus system comes in. The rhesus, or Rh system, is the second most significant blood group system. These are the most important antigens, with the most significant one being the D antigen. Although there are lots of other Rh antigens, Rhd is the most significant because it's the most likely of the Rh antigens to produce an immune response. Depending on whether the Rhd antigen is present, each blood type is assigned a positive or negative symbol. People who are Rhd negative can only receive Rhd negative blood. But people who are Rhd positive can receive either Rhd positive or Rhd negative blood. The negative blood types, A negative, B negative, AB negative, and O negative, are more rare than the positive counterparts. And while the D antigen is the most important one in the Rh system, there are a total of 60 other Rh antigens, making it the largest of any of the blood classifications. And while these 8 blood types are the most common way of describing our blood, each of these 8 types can be subdivided much further. There are millions of varieties, each classified according to the exact antigens that coat the surface of our red blood cells. To know your exact blood type, you'd have to write it out antigen by antigen. Luckily for most of us, many of the antigens we have don't affect our ability to receive or donate blood, because pretty much everyone else also has them. For example, more than 99.9% of people carry the antigen called Bell, so for most of us donating blood to one another, we wouldn't need to worry about this antigen, as it wouldn't trigger an immune response. But for every 5,000 people, there's one person who does lack the Bell antigen who shouldn't receive blood from the other 4,999. Their immune system recognizes the Bell antigen as foreign, and if given Bell positive blood, they can have kidney failure and possibly die. But doctors do screen for as many of these variants as possible to make sure to find the best match for a blood transfusion. But sometimes this best match isn't really possible, and this is why the rarer your blood, the harder things get. The world's rarest blood type, Rh-null, is called Rh-null because it has none of the 61 antigens present in the Rh blood system we previously discussed. It is rare enough to have a few of the antigens in the Rh system missing from your blood, but the chances of missing them all are astronomically small. Doctors call it the golden blood because for anyone who has any type of rare Rh blood type, missing a few antigens here or there, the Rh-null blood can be accepted, where other more typical blood types could not be. It has enormous life-saving capabilities, but for those who have it, it can be a curse. Most of us likely take for granted that if we get hurt, the nearest hospital will be able to sort us out. But if you're one of the few with Rh-null blood, life is inherently more dangerous. You can't receive blood from anyone else except the 42 other people that exist who have been found to have the same blood type, and of the people known to have it, only a handful of them are active donors, and they're spread across the world. And the logistics of shipping blood around the world are stupidly complicated. Bureaucracy and paperwork can hold things up at the borders, which can create a myriad of issues. Fresh blood has a shelf life of 4 weeks, and it has to be stored at 4 degrees Celsius, which is challenging during transportation, especially to remote areas. This means that any holdup at customs can render the blood unusable, and some countries have very restrictive rules in regards to importing blood. The UAE, for example, won't accept any blood into the country that isn't from the Gulf states. These types of logistics and bureaucracy make it very hard for someone with rare blood to get a transfusion, especially in a sudden emergency where they need the blood fast. For one Swiss man with Rh-null blood, this meant as a child, he couldn't go to summer camp or do outdoor sports because his parents feared he could get an injury with no ability to get a blood transfusion. As an adult, he can't travel to countries without modern hospitals. The only realistic way he can navigate this danger is to continuously donate blood to himself, meaning twice a year he donates blood to keep on reserve in case he ever needs it. And he can't really donate much more than that because Rh-null blood also comes with some adverse effects. The Rh antigens that most of us have are thought to play a role in maintaining the integrity of the red blood cell membrane. Red blood cells which lack Rh antigens have an abnormal shape and an increased osmotic fragility. This means that red blood cells break down quicker than they should, resulting in a hemolytic anemia. This can lead to fatigue, shortness of breath, and jaundice, and thus makes frequent blood donation impossible. And because only a handful of people with this rare blood ever donate it, this places a large burden on those who do when someone else needs this type of blood. Because Rh-null blood can be donated to anyone with a rare combination of Rh negatives in their blood type, every once in a while they may get an urgent call to donate. The Swiss man we mentioned before once got a call that a newborn baby was in dire need of his type of blood. To save the baby's life, he would need to make his way to the donation center. This meant taking a taxi to Geneva and taking time off of work, none of which is allowed to be reimbursed due to the blood donation laws in some parts of Europe. He was able to help in this instance, but quickly realized that the cost and burden of donating his valuable blood would ultimately fall on him. Anyone with this rare type of blood is given the gift of being able to help someone at a time of need, an ability to help where no one else can. It probably feels pretty amazing to know you played a part in saving someone's life. But this also comes with the unfortunate burden of being, in a sense, on call for your entire life, should the need for your blood arise. This poses an interesting ethical question. It's up to you to donate blood at a moment's notice, whether you're in a client meeting, at your own wedding, or on vacation. At what point does your moral obligation to help someone else in need begin and end? But for every person who was otherwise doomed without this donated blood, the importance of it obviously can't be overstated. And this serves as a reminder that hospitals around the world rely on the good deed of blood donation to save lives, whether your blood is rare or not. Since the very first blood transfusions in the 1800s, they have saved millions of lives and played a vital role in shaping our modern world. In times of peace, they've saved citizens from unfortunate accidents, and in times of war, have saved the lives of countless wounded soldiers. During World War II, the American Red Cross flew almost 200,000 pints of whole blood from the US to the Allied forces in Europe. More than 50,000 pints of blood were needed for the soldiers fighting during the D-Day invasion of Normandy alone. The level of coordination needed for the collection and transport of this much blood is astounding, and you can learn more about logistics like this in Real Engineering's new Logistics of D-Day.
Okay. Thoughts? Comments? It's an interesting ethical question, right? At least a little bit. Like, if your blood is the only kind that can save a sick baby, you have a moral obligation to help, right? But if your blood is the only kind of blood that can save a sick baby, like, where does that line get drawn? And, like, a lot of countries do have very strict rules on, you can't pay for blood donation. Does that make sense at all? Right, in some ways it does, right? Because otherwise you just basically encourage people who are, yeah, because you don't want people to feel like, well, I'll just donate parts of my body for pay, right? But also, you know, it's like a lot of time and it's a lot of effort, and yeah. Other thoughts? Concerns? It did highlight a couple things that I will now skip the slides of. The ABO, RH versions are the most common, but there are lots and lots and lots of subdivisions of these. And it's a combination of, yeah, it's a combination of many things, but the immune system needs to respond to this. The rhesus factor, it's called that because of rhesus monkeys. This is a problem during pregnancy sometimes. So if the mother's Rh negative and the father's Rh positive, it's not a huge deal except if the infant is Rh positive, right? Then during pregnancy, the mother's blood and the infant's blood don't actually mix, right? There's a blood barrier there. But during delivery, often the mother's blood comes in contact with blood from, say, the placenta. And then the mom's immune system recognizes that there's a problem, recognizes this Rh positive factor, and so makes antibodies against it, which again isn't a problem at this time because the kid comes out, all's well. But if the mom gets pregnant again and this next child has Rh positive blood, her blood already has the antibodies against this, and antibodies do cross the placental barrier. So the antibodies from mom go and attack the fetus's blood, which can be a real problem. It's treatable, but it is needed to be watched for. Though most people are Rh positive, so that's not a huge deal typically. Questions? This is what you did in lab. It's beautiful. And that's as far as we're going today. And I am really sorry, I totally saved the wrong version of my slides. I was working on it and then didn't save the new and improved version. So I will post those better. We're now on to the heart. Talk to me about what the heart does. Question, and this is a sneaky question. Does the heart oxygenate the blood? Say no. Okay. It is a super common misconception that the heart oxygenates blood, right? Because you need oxygen in blood. The heart's important for blood. Ergo, right? What does the heart do? Better question, what's responsible for getting oxygen to the blood? Okay, with the lungs. Thought you were gonna say. Sorry, I feel like you were about to say it. Okay, so lungs are getting oxygen to the blood. That's beautiful. What's the heart doing? Yeah, you're right. It's pumping it, right? It's getting it squished around the body. It's not as easy as it seems. I don't know if it seems easy to you. I don't know. It's somewhat complicated because the heart needs to do several things. The heart needs to keep chugging away like all the time, right? So some organs, I mean, most organs need to chug away all the time, but it really needs to chug away all the time, and it can't like have an off day. Whereas like if your stomach kind of has a day where it's just not, it's not moving a whole bunch, that's not a big deal. You'll get an upset stomach, whatever. Your heart has to keep beating, just for your whole life. That's kind of how life works, right? It's got to do that. It's got to be super coordinated. It also has a weird combination of requirements. So, based on what you know about fluid dynamics, about how stuff moves, fluid doesn't go from high pressure to low pressure, or low pressure to high pressure. Yeah. Yeah, right? So you've got high pressure, right, in a hose, and it goes to the lower pressure, right? That's why it falls out the end of the hose. We're cool with this? And if you're trying to, say, get water from someplace low, someplace high, you need to put a lot of pressure on it to be able to push it. We're okay with this? Fluid does not go from low pressure to high pressure, right? There's no push for it. You have to push high to low. Okay. So this sets up a weird combination. So if I need blood at the top of my head, which I do, need some blood in my brain, it's great. I need to have the heart be higher pressure than the top of my head. Fair enough? Any problems with that? Okay, so I need the heart to be the highest pressure. I need to have the blood pressure in the heart be higher than anywhere else in the body. Okay, have we all established this then? Okay, but I also need to get blood back from my body into my heart. For blood to come back from some area of the body, I need to have my heart be at a lower pressure, right? I need it to go from higher pressure out in the body to lower pressure in the heart. Fair enough? This means my heart has to be both the area of the highest blood pressure in the body, but it also has to be the area of the lowest blood pressure in the body. And that's a lot to ask, right? Because you have to both have a system that's super high pressure, but also super low pressure. Yeah? We're okay with this? It's got to do that, and it's got to keep going constantly. Okay, so the heart is very interesting. The heart's a closed, so the cardiovascular system is this closed system of the heart and blood vessels. So yeah, like, next semester we'll talk about blood vessels more, and they're kind of leaky, meaning something can cross. But for our purposes right now, it's a closed system, meaning if you started at one end and you trace it around, like if you stay in the blood vessels, you get back to the heart, right? It's not open to the environment. It's a closed system. The cardiovascular system is trying to just keep this blood moving along, right? It's trying to deliver oxygen and nutrients to the cells, and it's trying to remove waste, mostly carbon dioxide, but a lot of other waste, from cells and tissues. Alright, this one, I feel dumb. I'm totally gonna describe to you where your heart is, but like, can everybody work with me where your heart is on your body? You guys have it? Okay, you got it done? Beautiful. Yep, it's there in your thorax, between your lungs. Yeah. It's about the size of your fist, if you need a handy visual for about how big your heart is. Which is surprising. Okay, maybe it's not surprising to you. To me, it's surprisingly big compared to other organs. So like your cerebral hemispheres are about yay big, like 2 fists. Your heart's about the size of 1 fist, which is solid. It's a solid chunk. It's here. You'll know it's down midline. Most people have it so the base is pointed towards the right shoulder, so it's tilted. Some people actually have it flipped. Some people have mirror images of hearts. Well, not mirror image, it's flipped. It's not super common, but it does happen. Yeah, but right down the middle. This is a weird view for it, but if you cut and you're looking down, right, so you see lungs, where right here you've got your spinal cord, right? Your heart's there, very near the front of you. Great. How are we on time? Yeah. The heart has many things, and I'm sorry I don't have my better slides. Ha ha ha, I put better pictures in it. The heart is wrapped up in something called the pericardium. It's this sac that covers the heart. And it's a double-walled sac. The image your book has, and I really meant to put it in, was, have you ever blown up a balloon? You blow up a balloon, and it's not super tight, but like it's still kind of squishy. You blow up a balloon, and then you hold this balloon, and you put your fist into it, and the balloon then wraps around your fist. And you've got a double-walled thing over your fist. The pericardium has a similar deal. So looking at the pericardium right here, do you see how it's got like a double layer going on? Alright, we've got several things going on. We've got what's called the fibrous pericardium. It's most superficial. It's kind of loose. You've got these 2 layers of pericardium. There's some space separated between it. The part of the pericardium that's physically touching the heart, that's right next to it, it's called the epicardium. It's this right here. And you'll note there's a space here. This becomes important later. There's the myocardium is the next level down. This is actually heart now. It's muscles. We'll actually see it in just a sec. But, sorry, while we're still on the pericardium, have you ever heard of something called pericarditis? Maybe not. It's when the pericardium gets inflamed, which means these membranes, what they're trying to do normally is they're trying to reduce friction, right? Because your heart's going to be just moving all the time. And so they're going to reduce friction. But if this gets inflamed, this gets rougher, and it'll legitimately make like crackling sounds when your heart beats, which is not a good sign. It can also be a problem if the fluid in here, if you get too much fluid, it like leaks in, because then it squashes down on the heart. And so the treatment, I kid you not, it sounds terrible. So terrible, but what doctors do, is they legitimately go in with a syringe and just pull some of the fluid off, just to like relieve the pressure, but it sounds terrifying, personally. Okay, but we're okay with the pericardium, this outside layer, preventing friction, covering it, kind of wrapping it up. Yeah? Okay. The heart wall itself, right, has these 3 layers. It's got the epicardium, which is the lower level of the pericardium. It's connective tissue. It's great. You've got the myocardium, which is the muscle, right? This myo you've seen before, right, like myosin, muscle. It's the middle muscle part of the heart. It's nice and thick. And then the inner layer is called the endocardium, the endothelium, you can also call it. So far, so good? So that's this picture again. Pericardium, this outside layer. The epicardium is this part of the pericardium that's right here. Myocardium, this muscle layer. And then the endocardium is this inside layer. And then you're inside the actual chamber of the heart. Oh, just random thoughts while we're at it. This shape of the heart right here is kind of sort of maybe why like Valentine's Day hearts are shaped the way they are. You can kind of see it, right? That bump, pointy down, another bump. It's not perfect, and Valentine's hearts aren't exactly the same shape as like human hearts, but that's where we're going. Oh, okay. I did save these parts, I was happy with it. So, if you look at the heart wall, deepest layers, what's the most inside layer called? We want to take a guess? Anything we know it's not? Anyone to completely rule out, like, no, absolutely not. Is this something we're totally planning on just like looking at your notes later and being like layers, layers, layers? Let's look at it just a sec and then come back. Pericardium, epicardium, pericardium, myocardium, endocardium, chamber. We're here? Okay. Deepest layer. Yeah! It's the endocardium. We're good? Okay. On your, I realize lab and class are not perfectly synced, so I know you know all this already. Have you seen your lab exams yet? Okay. I was grading them. I need to like actually post them. People did a fantastic job on the chambers of the heart. The heart's acting as a pump. The left and the right sides are acting as different pumps. There are 4 chambers, so it's not a cube, but you can almost think of it like a cube. You can think of a cube like 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, right? The atria, so one's an atrium, lots are atria, are the receiving chambers, and there's a right atrium and a left atrium. And the ventricles, again, right and left, they're the squeezy out bits. They're the discharging chambers. You might have heard of like an atrium in a building. It's the receiving room. That's where the name where you get the name from. So, lots of words for your studying, but I'm going to just go through it right here. We've got the heart right here. Can we see where those atriums are? I realize there's a lot going on in that slide. Can we see they're up there? You got that? So look as you look at the walls of the heart here on the atrium. You've got the heart walls here. This is made of muscle, right? Myocardium muscle right here. Any difference between how chubby the muscle is right here versus how chubby the muscle is right here? See that difference? There's not a ton of muscle in the chambers of the atria, right? Why not? Doesn't the heart need to pump a ton of blood? How come the ventricles have to like carry it all? You know, I know you know. That's okay. Sorry. I realize it's creepy to like watch people's eyes, but you can totally see when people are like, yeah, I've got this. Okay, so the atrium is just receiving blood. It's not having to like squirt it against the force of gravity, right? Like your ventricles are gonna have to work hard, right? Because you're doing a handstand and they're now trying to pump blood against gravity up to your toes, because you're on your head. But the atria, they can have thin, small walls, no big deal. They're receiving it. you'll note there are lots of holes. Note the holes. You've got blood vessels coming in. So the right atrium, this one right here, you see this really, really huge vein? It's the superior vena cava. It's returning tons of deoxygenated blood from the body, right? So the body's been using the blood. It's dumping blood that's been deoxygenated back into the heart. Just as like a handy side note, when blood is deoxygenated, people don't mean that when you talk about deoxygenated blood, it's not that every single physical scrap of oxygen is out of it, right? Like, it's just less oxygenated than it was a second ago. Because if you hold your breath, your heart keeps pumping, and that's good. And you can get blood, you can get oxygen from that blood. You just need to keep it going. But okay, so blood from the body is pouring in through here. It's pumping in through here. What else do we want to look at? Blood's coming in. Yeah. There are a couple other places it can come through, but in general, blood's coming back in. Great. You're returning blood from the deoxygenated blood from the body into here. It's great. The left atrium is receiving blood, right? And typically when you think of the blood that the heart's receiving, you think, okay, the heart receives deoxygenated blood and pumps out oxygenated blood, right? That's a pretty straightforward way of thinking of it. The problem is, it's not like a deep problem. The problem is, okay, if the heart receives deoxygenated blood and pumps out oxygenated blood, but the heart itself isn't oxygenating blood, right? It can't do that. So what the heart is actually doing is it's receiving deoxygenated blood, yes, but it's also receiving oxygenated blood. So on this side here, this left atrium, blood from the lungs that's just now all full of oxygen and super enthusiastic full of oxygen, oxygenated blood is coming into the heart as well. Deoxygenated blood coming into the right atrium, oxygenated blood coming into the left atrium. So far, so good? We're okay with that? So I feel a sneaky quiz question coming up. Something like, does the heart only receive deoxygenated blood? And the answer is no, of course not. It's got to get the oxygenated blood back, right? Okay, so those are the atria. They're the receiving chambers, right? Stuff is coming in. Deoxygenated blood from the body, oxygenated blood from the lungs. Cool. You'll note, just based on the anatomy here, you'll note after blood comes in, it's going to go someplace, right? So blood comes in here, right? Blood's from the right atrium, is gonna go into the right ventricle, right? So if you just caught deoxygenated blood from the body, where do you want to send it to next? This blood came back from the body, it doesn't have much oxygen in it, you now need to send it someplace. Where do you send it? You send it to the lungs. Yeah, you're like, okay, got this taken care of. So, so it's coming through the right atrium, it goes into the right ventricle, and then we'll see this in a sec. As this closes down and squeezes, you're squeezing it out to the left pulmonary artery. So you're squeezing it, pulmonary meaning lungs, you're sending this to the lungs. You're saying, go away blood, come back after you've visited the lungs, right? We're okay with this? This is a really weird situation. So arteries carry blood away from the heart. You're gonna take A for away, right? Arteries carrying blood away from the heart. Most arteries are carrying oxygenated blood, right? Because, it's carrying away from the heart. In this case right here, this blood's going away from the heart, but it's that deoxygenated blood going towards the lungs. So this artery, this left pulmonary artery, is carrying deoxygenated blood, but it's still an artery, moving away from the heart. So far, so good? Cool. So deoxygenated blood from the body comes in, goes into the right ventricle, goes out the pulmonary artery, left pulmonary artery, out to the heart. Beautiful. Meanwhile, the left ventricle recently got oxygenated blood from the lungs, right? Came in. Oxygenated blood from the lungs. That oxygenated blood hits the left ventricle, and the heart's going to close out, and that blood is going to go out through the aorta. The aorta is the largest artery in the body. Oxygenated blood is coming through. If you only have, I don't know, the capability to prevent one artery from getting hurt, this is the artery to prevent getting hurt. It is huge. This thing is like, the first time I actually saw it on the cadaver, it's like garden hose size. It's really big. A lot of blood is moving through it. Questions, concerns, comments? We're doing okay? Here's the same picture, but just cut now. You'll see. Do you see how? Okay. Questions so far? We're doing okay? Great. You see how back up here you have a line down the middle, a separation between things? You can't actually see it so great here. They're called septums. There's a separation of the ventricles, and there's a separation of the atria. The intraventricular septum is between the two ventricles. The interatrial septum is between the two atria. So that's that picture. Again, I kept putting the same picture in because I thought it was beautiful. Lots of words, mostly for your own study. Here's this. So remember about blood, but this is the take home from today, okay? We've got the heart right here in the middle. Sorry, online people, this is the take home from today. See the heart in the middle? It's color-coded for our convenience, with blue being oxygen poor, carbon dioxide rich, and red being carbon dioxide poor, oxygen rich blood. Though, yeah, okay, so here's the heart. Where do we want to start? We can start anywhere. Where should we start? It's a closed system. Should we start with blood coming into the heart from the body? Okay. So blood comes into the heart from the body, right? Cool. So I realize I'm like right here. Normally I'd be up here, but blood coming in through into the right ventricle, right? Great. It's going to come in, through the right atrium. Through the right atrium, hits the right ventricle, it's going to go out to what's called the pulmonary circuit. So it's a loop with the lungs, okay? This is the pulmonary circuit, so blood comes in, comes back out through the pulmonary arteries, goes to the lungs. At the lungs, blood is going to drop off carbon dioxide and pick up oxygen, right? So this is where the blood is getting oxygenated. So the blood's going to get oxygenated. Yeah, okay, we'll stay on this. Blood gets oxygenated. Now it's oxygenated. It's coming back to the heart. Going back to the heart. Comes into the pulmonary veins. This is also weird. Normally veins are carrying deoxygenated blood, right? Things going back towards the heart. This vein is going towards the heart. It's carrying oxygenated blood because it's coming from the lungs. So the pulmonary circuit, this loop right here. So the heart's already made one complete loop. It's made a loop from, if you're following one little blood molecule, one little blood cell, I don't know what's wrong with me today. One little blood cell, right? Here, back here, it's made a loop, right? But then you keep going. So blood comes from the pulmonary circuit into the left atrium, into the left ventricle, from the left ventricle out to the body, and at the body is where you're going to actually, you know, give off oxygen to the tissues, and you're going to pick up carbon dioxide, right? So you're going to have a whole bunch of capillary beds. This might be in your face, this might be on your calf, this might be anywhere, but in the body, dumping off oxygen, picking up carbon dioxide, right? And then you're returning that back to the right atrium, the right ventricle, and on. So then this is the systemic circuit. It's the body system in general. So you'll hear, well, your book talks about the heart as a double pump. What it's saying is you've got one loop here, pulmonary circuit, back to heart. The other loop, systemic circuit, from the heart to the body and back to the heart. So far, so good? Okay. Giving you enough time for the quiz, but still going through things. We go through one more set of stuff. Okay. Everyone sees this picture? Sneaky question. Is this true or false? I recognize words are harder than just the picture. We're okay that this is how this works, right? And like, okay, it comes in, and it goes, and comes in. Questions? Okay. Great. So far, so good. I want to go back to this picture up here. The heart's squeezing, right? It's legitimately pumping, right? That's what it does. It's great. If this squeezes down, and let's say my right ventricle closes down, and I squirt blood back through the atria, is this a problem? It is, right? I don't want to just squeeze back whatever I was just coming in. Okay, let me actually show you some pictures. This will help. You've got valves on the heart to prevent backflow. So you want once blood comes in, you don't want it squishing back out the same way it just came in. It's called backflow if it does that. So you've got several valves. Basically, between each step of the heart, you've got basically doors to say once blood goes through, it's not coming back in. It can flow through just fine, but it's not coming back the other way. There actually aren't. Well, let's see. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's cut. This heart right here is cut through sideways, just so you see everything. Several valves, and you can see that they're really, really big, right? So, for instance, you've got this pulmonary valve here, right? It's called the semilunar valve for reasons. Blood's flowing into the heart, right? It's flowing in, but once it goes in, the valve's closing, so blood can keep flowing in, but as the heart squeezes, you don't squeeze blood back out, okay? So you have pulmonary valve here, right? Great. You have four right here. You have the aortic valve. The aortic valve is making it so blood, as it leaves the heart, doesn't fall back in. So far, so good, right? It's coming out, not coming back in. And then you have these two valves inside the heart between the atria and the ventricles. So what's called the, well, which one do you want to do first? Do you care? Okay, the tricuspid valve's on the right side of the heart. The bicuspid, you can also call it the mitral valve. It's on the left side of the heart. Okay with this? Let's skip that. Let's just look. I'm just going to skip some of these things because we have other things to do with our lives. Okay. we're gonna watch some valves in action here. Honestly, this is like a slow motion video, right? So blood's coming in to the atria. So the AV valves, the AV valves are the valves between the atria and the ventricles. So that's the mitral or the tricuspid, right? So as blood comes in, it physically pushes pressure on it, and it's like a trapdoor. It opens in, right? These get forced open, right? Blood comes in, whichever side's coming in, right? Comes in. And yeah, you're gonna pour blood in. You're gonna pour blood in, and you've got these physical flaps there, right? So blood pours in. As blood pours in, it takes up space, and it ends up closing the door behind itself. It closes the valve because blood fills in, and as the blood fills in, it closes that. Do you see that? The heart's gonna fill, blood's gonna pour in to the ventricles, but then that blood can't go back out to the atrium because the door's closed behind it. And that's where we're at. The semilunar valves, the ones that are going to be the opposite ones, right? So these ones are you can get blood in, but you can't get it out. I mean, you can't get backflow. You've got the semilunar valves being the other ones, meaning we've just had the AV valves close here on the heart between the atria and the ventricles, right? You don't want the blood to go back out this way. Now you want the blood to just leave, but not come back into the ventricles. So these are called semilunar valves. As the ventricles contract, you push them open, right? You push them open. As the ventricles relax and there's less push, the valves basically go backwards from the other ones. Blood trying to come back in closes the door on that side. Do you see this? So the take home from all of this is, blood coming in through here. The AV valves. The AV valves are going to prevent blood from going from the ventricles into the atrium, right? And the semilunar valves are going to prevent blood from the arteries falling back into the ventricles. That's kind of intuitive, I think, as you're looking at the heart, right? You need it to not slosh backwards. This actually can be a serious problem. So you might actually know somebody who's had a defective valve replaced. Does anybody know somebody who's had a defective valve replaced? Yeah, it legitimately is. There are two big problems with this. You can have something called an incompetent valve, which is just kind of a cool way of saying this. It's saying the valve is incompetent at its job. It doesn't close well, so you can have, anyone can do this. But let's say this valve right here, this AV valve is incompetent, meaning blood comes in, and instead of closing up nicely when the ventricles when the ventricles contract, some blood splooshes back out, right? So you just keep re-swooshing the same blood. The heart repumps the same blood over and over and over, and this is a problem, right? Are we okay with this? So that's an incompetent valve. You can imagine if you have a door, and the door doesn't shut quite right, so now stuff's falling through. You can also have what's called valvular stenosis. I think I'm saying that right? It's where the door itself, the valve itself, actually just will close. Like, it's not incompetent, but it's really stiff, right? And you've had some doors like this in your life where, to open it, you ram your shoulder and you push, right? So when when the heart's pumping, it has to pump extra hard to push that door open, to push that valve open. And that just is exhausting because it takes so much more energy to do. So these can be replaced sometimes with like mechanical valves, sometimes with animal valves, and sometimes with like cadaver valves. So yeah. Everyone's good? Thoughts, concerns, comments? Great. I will. Things to do. Sorry. Things for me to do. I'll have your grades posted by tonight. For some reason, I thought I had posted more of them. I guess I haven't. Probably missing like a whole essay question. I just lost the will to grade the other day. And I'll post the actual good slides, not the random ones that I don't want to use. I think that's it. If you want to go take the quiz online, go take it. It's open until 11:55. If you want to stay and take it in person, you certainly can. If you take it in person, you can use your notes, but you can't look up stuff online because we just need, I need to have it be somewhat contained. Problems? Everyone's good? Great.